Hey everyone, I wanted to do a follow-up divorce video. Across all my divorce videos, I have about 2,000 views on YouTube, and so I have a small channel, of course, and I just started it this year. But it's the most commented on, it's the most questions that I get and DMs and things like that with people that are going through it or contemplating it and things like that. And so I feel like, I went through a terrible situation, and if I can help anybody else through my stories and through, my past experiences of sharing them and things like that, that's really the goal of my channel. So if you're contemplating divorce, please stay tuned so that you can hear a couple things that you might want to just think about and consider before you get a divorce. So I think the most important thing if you're contemplating divorce is, asking yourself why you want to get a divorce. Is it for a petty reason? Are you just, not as attracted to them as you used to be? Or do you feel like you, quote unquote, fell out of love with them? Marriage is a partnership, and so you have to make it through the good and the bad. And so if it's for a superficial reason, especially because you met someone else and you just feel like, they've swept you off your feet and they're doing everything that, your spouse doesn't do. That's a trap and that's a game, because, whenever you seriously start dating somebody, you're going to have similar problems. So I definitely think that it's important for you to examine why. And if it's not a good reason, you might want to sit up and try to think about sticking it out. So my second reason is, you have to think about the fact that you took vows, under God and things like that to stay together, and God values and treasures marriage and encourages it in the Bible. And so there's only really a few reasons why God justifies getting a divorce. He encourages us not to break our vows and to stay with our partners. But if, it just is not going to work, he did authorize getting a decree of divorce and things like that. However, you might want to think about that before you get a divorce, is that you took vows under God. And, anybody that's religious and considers themselves to be a Christian, that's just something that you might want to contemplate on and pray about. Third, I think that maybe you should think about if there is, anything reasonable that you could do to maybe save your marriage. There's sometimes people that are cheating and people that basically say that they're not going to stop cheating and that they want you to just deal with it or they want you to leave. And, so I get that there's some scenarios that are completely out of your control. If someone does not want to stay with you, I'm not saying, just be dumb or, just be foolish or ignorant or anything like that. However, if there's any way that you can get your marriage on track, I would say that you should try to do everything possible reasonably. Like I said, you're not begging anybody to stay. You're not begging anybody to go to counseling. You lay things out on the table, and if they go for it, great. Maybe it'll work out, but maybe it still won't. I think the most important thing is for you to, if you do decide to get a divorce, to know that you tried everything you possibly could and you gave it all that you had and you did everything that, you could think of to do. And if it still just doesn't work, then at least you come out of it knowing that you tried. And that's a big deal, because divorce is a really serious and hurtful and painful thing. And so those of you that haven't experienced it, that's why I said, if you can save it, save it. If you have to come out of it, just know that you gave it your all. And, then it is what it is. Everything's not meant to work out. And sometimes we marry the wrong people. The other most important thing to remember is that it's a jungle out here, and dating is not fun. Dating is, a complete disaster. Dating nowadays is just horrible. the lack of communication, the lack of availability of, adequate spouses and, people that are Christian men that are actually walking the walk. I mean, they're scarce. They're out there, but they're scarce. And usually when you meet a good one, they're already married. And that's why, because they know how to treat a woman and they were able to get a good woman themselves because they're a good person. And so definitely don't come out of a marriage thinking that you're going to find somebody better, because you might end up in that 80-20 situation. So it's definitely something for you to think about. The grass is not greener and dating sucks. So the other things that I had for you guys are just pretty much food for thought for you to think about. So one thing that I jotted down was that remember that all women nag. So if you're a husband and you're like, oh my God, my wife just nags me. She just nags, all she does. Once you marry the side chick or whoever you're cheating with or whoever you feel like, is better or whatever, you feel like the grass is greener, you're going to run into the same situation. And you have to ask yourself, though, why is your spouse nagging you? Male or female, why is your spouse nagging you? What is it that you're not doing that you should be doing? So I think in that scenario, you really have to examine yourself and realize, okay, well, what could I be doing better? Also, for men and women that feel like, oh, I'm just not attracted to them anymore. They're this and they're that, and they changed and they let themselves go and blah, blah, blah. And it's like looks fade. So whoever you feel like you're going to go out there and get that's a supermodel, and then she gets pregnant and then she gains weight and you're no longer attracted to her. It's like, are you just going to keep leaping people? I mean, if you are basing your love for somebody on the attractiveness of them, visually, then you probably never should have gotten married, because you have some issues that you have to work out yourself, because it is a heart thing. For you to go before God and say that you love this person for better or worse. And so if it's just based on their looks and that's, what you're attracted to and that's where your heart is, that's a bad situation. I don't have any kids, so I don't have any advice really to give you about children other than to just think about what it's going to do to them. If you get a divorce, it definitely affects children in a very negative way. Sometimes when your kids are just completely sick of you guys arguing all the time, they might be like, why don't you guys just get a divorce? But even still, they're going to have a hard time, coping with that and co-parenting and going back and forth and things like that. So it definitely takes an emotional toll on children. I mean, my parents were arguing a lot when I was a kid, and it made me feel very unstable. It gave me anxiety problems and things like that. And so it's definitely something for you guys to take into consideration and definitely not go into lightly. I mean, especially if you're thinking about cheating and stepping outside your marriage and stuff like that, it's like you definitely have to think about how it's going to affect the entire family, not just your spouse. And just to reiterate this too, I mean, definitely think about, have you tried everything? And come out of yourself to be able to look into the other person's perspective, to say, have I, examine yourself, have I done this, have I done that, and really just think about if there's anything else that maybe you can do. I mean, especially those of you that are getting a divorce because you're not attracted to your spouse anymore, things like that. It's like, what can you do? If they gained weight, can you go walk with them? Is there some tips that you can give them? Can you connect them to somebody? Can you pay for them to get their hair done? Whatever. What can you do yourself that's going to help the situation? I think that is also really important to think about, that no marriage is perfect. No matter how happy somebody looks on social media, no matter how happy they look at parties or at work or anything like that, you just never know. Every single marriage has problems and they have their ups and downs. They just might have them a little bit differently than you do. So definitely don't leave at the first sign of trouble, because you might be missing out on a beautiful opportunity for you guys to learn from one another and to grow together and be stronger and be able to be more prepared to handle a situation later on. I mean, you don't know what God's doing and how he's shaping you guys to be able to be prepared for other things and greater things. So definitely think about that. Last and definitely most important thing for you guys to consider is what is God trying to tell you and show you in the situation. What is God saying? Is God telling you to leave? I mean, me personally, when my husband was cheating on me and ended up losing the baby and like all those kinds of things, I felt like God wasn't telling me to leave him. Like, I felt like I was praying about it and God was not telling me to leave at that time. And maybe there was something that I was supposed to do. Maybe, you know, we were meant to go to Georgia and I was meant to have the experiences that I had. And if I would have divorced him, I would have still been in Florida. So it's like, you just never know where God's leading you and how he's going to use you to, I mean, even make a bad situation into something good. So definitely think about that as well. What is God trying to tell you in this situation? So I really hope that this helps someone out there that's contemplating getting a divorce. It is not an easy decision. It's an absolutely miserable decision that nobody ever even wants to make. Nobody goes into marriage thinking that they're going to get a divorce. Sometimes we marry the wrong people, and it is what it is. You go to God in prayer and you ask him to reveal to you what his will and his plan is for your life, and you go from there. I mean, nobody should tell you to get a divorce. If anybody's telling you to get a divorce, just run away from them. Because that's not something biblical. Nobody should be telling you to get a divorce. Friends, family, those kinds of things, someone that's good and genuine, they're going to tell you to, go to God, because that is the ultimate power that's going to be able to reveal the next steps that he has for your life. So definitely leave me a comment if you guys have any follow-up questions. Also, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you enjoyed this video, felt it was educational in some way, please share it on social media so that other people can hopefully be blessed by it. And like I said, just get some additional knowledge. Give my video a thumbs up, comment below, or DM me if you have any other questions. But thank you guys for tuning in.